let me get that started. Now that you've got my woes, all of this started to happen between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock yesterday. Frantically finding somebody. You're going to see all my Yelp tabs at the side of my share thing. Okay. Ahí vamos a ver. Let's take a look. Where are my notes? Ay, uy, ¿dónde está? Wow, where did that go?
Una pregunta,
Sí, dime.
Duolingo.
Sí.
El que usa robots. Why not ROBOTES? Why is there an S with not an E?
Oh, plural.
Sí.
Robots. Creo que sí. I do believe I've seen that. ¿Y por qué? El por qué, no sé por qué. No lo sé. I don't know why that is, but I do believe I have only seen robots listed as ROBOTS with not an ES.
It was more than once. At first, I thought it was an error, but no, it was more than once that I saw it.
Creo que sí. I think that is correct. I too, and I would only know this from, I've listened to videos that talk about these machines. And I do believe I've heard robots. Yeah.
Wow.
The Google Translate also has it without the
yeah, I don't know why that is. Part of the reason might be that it is a borrowed word. That's going to be a lame explanation. It is a borrowed word. A lot of these technology words get borrowed in, that are borrowed in from other languages, wind up just being what they are in whatever that language is. So, software is software. And, but yeah, the fact that it is not an ES to make robot plural, I think is correct. And I cannot give you a reason why.
Okay, it just is.
Yeah, I think it just is, sadly. There it is. Okay. Pero buena pregunta. Sometimes these little glitchy, weird things will happen, but especially it comes in when you got a technology thing. Okay, por ejemplo, and I'll give you another example like robot, because I think this is the same rule. La palabra chip. Cuando hablamos de un aparato electrónico, ¿sí? Y chip, the thing that's inside your smartphone or your computer. La palabra de español también es chip. Y se pronuncia chip. Pero plural, creo que no es chipes. I have never heard anybody say chipes. Sí, es chips. So yeah, I believe it is because my guess, because I've heard it with the term cheap as well. And you might talk about manufacturing chips.
Right.
Plural, y siempre es chips. So I think when some of these words get imported from other foreign languages that are related to technology, sometimes they just put an S on. But I can't tell you why that happens. I could put it out on a forum, but I think the answer I'm just going to get is it's just what happens,
It's what it is.
which isn't very satisfying. Así es, so it is. Okay. Bien. Okay. So, if I am not mistaken, we're going to take a look. Oh, we're going to dip our toes into this. Y, el que usa robots en la fábrica es Antonio. Sí. The guy who uses robots in the factory is Antonio. Robots. Sí, es así. Okay. A ver, vamos a ver. Esta pregunta, este tema es algo muy interesante. This thing is something that is quite interesting.
Y muy difícil.
Y muy difícil. Y muy difícil, y hay diferencias en una región versus otra región. The little video you had with Ana, where she talked about volverse being used like hacerse to talk about he became the boss. I seldom hear people saying se volvió jefe. I almost never hear people saying that. I hear people using se hizo jefe. He became boss. And I use volver. I use, and I've heard other people from other parts of Latin America and from Spain not using volverse that way. So from me listening to her doing that video, I got that in central Mexico, in the central part where she is from, there are some different uses of volverse, different from what I hear other people using. So you've got to understand this become term es flexible. There's some flexibility in there depending on region and customs. I have heard other people make videos on this where other people say, oh, no, we don't use it that way here in a different region. So sometimes you just have to go with the flow and listen to what people use. By the way, tres verbos para become. There are actually, I'm going to try to get to a part of my screen where I can get my finger and you can see how many fingers I'm holding up. There are really about six or seven ways to say become. So the reason I'm starting you on three, is because for me to start you off with saying there are 6 or 7 different ways, please just shoot me now. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. So we're going to and you kind of have to be comfortable with a certain level of being uncomfortable for a while. But there's certain things that you can kind of count on as well. So we're just going to look at these 3 for right now, but I might introduce another one if I feel like we have time to do it. Okay. So what we're looking at now is a little bit more narrowed, which will help us. This is going to be become with a noun, not become with a description. So we are not looking at right now, become angry. Oh, he got sad. He became sad. No, we're looking at stuff like he became something. He became an engineer. She became a nurse. They became friends. That kind of became. Sadly, there is not just one way to say that in Spanish. And plus, a lot of these you're going to hear as past often, because are you more likely to say we became friends when we were kids, or I'm becoming friends with many people in my new group now? Okay, you might say that, but you're not so likely to say that. You're more likely to use this in a past tense sense. So, but all of these things, the whole group of the verbs that are frequently by native speakers referred to as verbos de cambio, verbs of change, because they signal a change in the person or maybe the mood. So the 3 we're going to look at a little bit heavier, and I actually would have kind of booted out volverse right now, but because Ana brought it up in the video, we've thrown it into this group. Hacerse en convertirse. Hacerse en convertirse, and we'll talk a little bit about volverse, but these 2 of hacerse and convertirse are probably a little more important that you know these 2 right now. Volverse does not always come into play with this bit of become with a noun. It did in Ana's video, but I hear that less However, obviously she's a native speaker in central Mexico. It must be, but Spain and some parts of Latin America, not as much. So let's take a look at hacerse. When somebody becomes something, a noun, in a way that is a natural progression as time goes on. Okay, so this is the most frequent thing. So what's useful for you to know is that if you want to say, because this is something we say a lot when we talk with people, we became friends. My daughter became friends with X, so-and-so, right? My husband and his childhood buddy, they became friends when they were teenagers. This is a phrase that we wind up using quite a lot, okay? And it's going to be hacerse. It's going to be hacerse en pretérito. It's going to be in preterite. It's not going to be imperfecto. It's going to be pretérito. So it's going to be me hice, I became, te hiciste, you became, se hizo, he became, nos hicimos, we became, se hicieron, they became. It's going to be that. Hacer is super, super irregular. Es muy irregular en pretérito. So, okay. This is often used with a job change when that's a natural step up for the person. And the reason I say a natural step up is, well, that there was, we probably won't use, well, you might use hacerse after a lot of effort, but there are other verbs that indicate a greater level of effort. So, okay. Juan se hizo gerente de este sector. John became manager of this sector or this group in a work group, okay? Se hizo gerente. He became manager. Now, Ana gave you an example where she, in central Mexico, would say se volvió gerente, became manager. She would use that. But I hear se hizo with gerente way more. I think it's a safer fit to
Can
say
I ask
somebody.
one question here?
Sí.
I'm looking back at my notes
Mm-hmm.
about the difference between imperfecto and pretérito.
Sí. Okay.
And I get the impression that pretérito is more an event, like there was an accident.
You're correct. Sí.
So, but this is
not
a
really an
gradual
event, is it?
change.
Yes, it is.
So it seems like it should be imperfecto.
Your question is a really good one, Nora.
Just go with the
yes.
flow and know it, huh?
You're right in thinking we have this mentality of it is event oriented. But in this sense, imperfecto would indicate something was happening and that there wasn't really, and that it was a repeated action. If we change it to se hacía gerente, let's say, se hacía gerente, we would be implying that something happened over and over with that imperfecto.
But you can only become boss once.
Yeah. So
Okay.
once it happened, it was done. But I understand why you're asking that question, because you don't become boss overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And I'm actually, I'll probably use that idea to show you a difference. There are some very fine nuances here. So somebody may, in some instances, I'll show you when, throw in a preterite that's going to tell you, ooh, that happened fast. But here, it's just that he became boss. Well, okay, that process is done. Okay, so why we do it, se hizo gerente, is because that process is now over.
Oh, okay.
because now he's boss, that's over with, and he's at that level now. And yeah, se hacía would change that because of the nature of that verb to mean did it over and over again. And that's not what we mean, that he became boss over and over again, that it was a repeated action. This one has to be a pretérito because there was an endpoint where he got the new name tag on boss.
Okay,
Does that make
that
sense?
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
But I know we have to kind of wrap our minds around these. And then sometimes we have to take a detour and say, yeah, that's true. But in this case, he's now got that job and that's done. So that's why that happens. And I have to think too of how do I explain this to you, because it's very nuanced. It really is. And I'm used to hearing it and I don't think about, well, why? So
Right?
yeah, I got to think about the why for you guys. Okay. Bien. Okay. Now, so what you want to know are what are typical chunks of words that will typically hang together with this hacerse. What kinds of words come after hacerse frequently in everyday conversations? So, hacerse rico, or hacerse, well, back up. Hacerse amigos is a typical chunk that hangs together, and that means to become friends. Okay, and that's hacerse with a noun. Became friends. Nobody goes to school to learn how to become a friend. Nobody takes courses on how to become a friend. It just happens over little steps with the passage of time. Okay. And you don't consciously think of, I'm moving in this direction. Okay. So here's another thing to know about hacerse. You're not consciously saying, I must do A, B, C, and D to become friends. It just happened over time. Okay. And now we're friends. We're at this level. That's not changing. That's done. So, pretérito. Okay. Nos hicimos amigos. Me hice amigos con Anita. Oh, let me show you the contrast here. Let me make this just a little more. And I don't want to change my font. Okay. Por ejemplo, let me show you where you'll hear pretérito and then also an imperfecto. Let's say me hice amigas, because I'm going to be talking about a gal and I'm a gal, con Ana, con Anda, Ana cuando, booted me out of my keyboard. Cuando, éramos niñas. Me hice amigas con Ana cuando éramos niñas. I became friends with Ana when we were little girls. And the éramos niñas has to be imperfecto because we were little kids for, I don't know, long time, but not a set number of years. But we became friends. We got to that level. Boom, we were friends like forevermore. Yeah, okay. That's the way you'll hear that. And that's the way you'd express it. Or I could say, me hice amigas con Ana cuando yo tenía 10 años, when I was 10. Cuando yo tenía 10 años, because that's the way we express age, always with imperfecto. So that half of it will be imperfecto. But the me hice part will be pretérito. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is a typical thing. Hacerse amigos is a typical thing. But here will be yet another typical thing. And this is kind of veering out of the territory of hacerse with a noun. But I want you to hear that a lot of times we hear hacerse with the term rico. And then it's going to mean somebody became rich. And rich is technically an adjective, but you know what? I think in this sense, rico is really implying like rich person. So rico is actually an adjective that's subbing in to really mean
A noun.
a rich man. Yeah, because we can do that in Spanish with just that word rico. So you hear this a lot. Oh, and I wrote it as rich man. Wow, I was smart when I wrote this a week ago. Okay. You hear this a lot. It doesn't really sound like it's following the noun thing, but it kind of is because you're saying rich man. But rich is typically used as an adjective. Juan se hizo rico. You hear hacerse with rico a lot. You hear hacerse with amigo a lot. You hear it a lot. This is a common chunk of, and you can just bet that somebody will use with the idea of rico or the idea of amigo. Hacerse is going to be a natural choice for somebody to use with those two words. It's just what they say. Okay, so it's a pattern that you can count on. Hacerse rico. Juan se hizo rico. Juan se hizo rico. I'm going to show you a slight turn of phrase, a slight different choice someone may make, which is going to have a super, super nuanced flip. Instead of saying Juan se hizo rico, which is fine, somebody might say Juan se volvió rico. That also means he became rich. But this se volvió often implies in a super subtle, kind of sneaky way that it happened kind of overnight. I'm going to show you why. Juan se volvió rico cuando ganó la lotería.
Oh,
This is a get rich quick thing. Yeah. So se volvió is going to kind of signal to somebody, ooh, something really weird happened. It was an overnight thing. And that se volvió is going to have kind of like a fast snap of your fingers overnight. Get rich overnight, get rich quick kind of thing. Or se volvió, here's another thing you hear. Se volvió millonario
see.
cuando ganó la lotería. Okay. So the se volvió for me and for a lot of people would kind of imply that this happened in a really unusually fast period of time. Okay. So hacerse with rico, hacerse with amigos, frequently hacerse with a noun can be used. Convertirse is one of these odd E to I stem changers. So you're going to hear this is the oddball vowel that is going to get the stem change, because again, I use these generally in preterito, and the stem changes for E to I in preterite happened in él y a usted and in ellos y a ustedes in third person form only. Okay, stem changes in preterite for the very teeny tiny number of verbs that do it, which are IR verbs that are also stem changing verbs. Oh, please, who thinks about all this? Well, okay, I have to. Convertirse is one of those oddball verbs. So it won't happen for yo. It'll keep the convertí, me convertí, te convertiste, nos convertimos, but se convirtió. Se convirtieron. That's the way they will be. Okay. Bien. This verb is often, a lot of times, it is totally interchangeable with hacerse. Okay. It might imply that there was some effort in it. Maybe not, but sometimes it does. Okay. But a move up in status, a significant change. Convertirse signals a significant change from what that person or thing was before. Okay, so here's a significant change thing. La oruga se convirtió en una mariposa bonita. The caterpillar became, and you see that we use the word en, into. Yeah, the en means kind of into. The caterpillar turned into, oh, instead of saying became, we might say the caterpillar turned into. In that case, we might say that in English as well, turned into, se convirtió en, and se convirtió en, when we talk about oruga, a little caterpillar, makes sense because it actually physically changes in form, okay? This also implies that somebody changes in actual physical form in terms of performance. Roberto y Carlos se convirtieron en los mejores jugadores del equipo. They became the best players on the team. They turned into the best players on the team. And, well, you got to work. That doesn't happen like magic, like suddenly you're a way better physical performer, but that it happened over time and it required some effort. This, well, I guess you could, mentally speaking, say that required effort. Camila se convirtió en la segunda esposa del príncipe Carlos. Y príncipe, I missed my accent mark. Príncipe Carlos. Príncipe, okay. Camila became second one. Okay, it was kind of a natural progression. Well, did she work at it? Not really, but it was a big step up. Okay, her going status-wise, this se convirtieron happened because of work they did. This se convirtió with Camila happened, and it signals a big step up in status. Major change social wise, right?
You work on it for a long time though.
Yeah. She wiggled her way. She wiggled her way to be that third person. And that was uncomfortable for many years. So you know what? We could say that Camila se convirtió. She worked on that for a lot of years. Yeah. Let's not judge. Okay.
When someone becomes ill, then it's volverse, correct?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be, that's
going to happen.
Yeah, se convirtió will not be used with something like ill.
No,
because you're not working toward it.
so it will be.
I mean, your body was, but it's not like you wanted that to happen. That's more like oh my God, how unfortunate. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Yeah. So the thing that comes after become, whether it's a noun or a description, kind of helps you figure out which verb we're going to choose for become. Now, right now, that's not going to feel natural for you. But sometimes there is a certain level of, sometimes, some situations, we might use hacerse and we might use convertirse, and they're equivalent. Sometimes, maybe not. So, okay, por ejemplo, for example, convertirse en amigos, you could say that, but the more natural phrase is this. This is what people just use with the word amigos. Could you use convertirse en amigos? You could. Would somebody understand you? Absolutely. They'd know what you mean. Would they think it was weird? No, not really. But the more natural phrase just winds up being hacerse amigos. It just is. Okay. Se convirtió is often used to talk about jobs. It is often used to talk about a status change that is significant or a physical change that is significant. This example of se convirtieron en los mejores jugadores, that's actually a significant physical performance and maybe muscle development change. Okay, so se convirtió starts to indicate, step up, a step up. That's what happens. Volverse is kind of similar to these. And for Ana, she saw this as really kind of interchangeable. But the way I hear people use it is that volverse winds up kind of telling you that something happened kind of fast. Okay. And again, depending on the country that the person is from, there may be different interpretations that happen in different places. So keep that in mind. Most of the time when I hear volverse, I don't hear it with a word like jefe. I hear it with a describing word. So this is the most common term you hear with volverse. This word loco is the one that typically, if somebody wants to say somebody went nuts, they went postal, they snapped. Yeah, they went postal. That unfortunately, we've got this term in English. Somebody went postal means they literally went like lunatic rage and like shot up a room, the crazy person. But if somebody snapped and just went crazy, or I want to say that somebody flew off. We have the term in English. They flew off the handle. That doesn't make any logical sense in English. Yeah, they flew off the handle. What does that mean? That means somebody got mad, super enraged, and it was a quick, sudden thing. That's volverse loco. Yeah. Ana escuchó las noticias y se volvió loca. Wow, she heard the news and she went screaming, crazy, raving mad. Okay. Se volvió loco means somebody just went off their rocker. They flew off the handle. They went nuts. Probably a lot of yelling and screaming involved. So, yeah, we could say, we could use volverse with enfermo. We would probably use some other things with enfermo too, but se volvió enfermo would indicate somebody got sick pretty quickly, like all of a sudden, right? It's not like I want to get sick, I'm going to become sick. You want to get a raise, you want to get a job. Camila wanted to maybe get the crown on her head eventually. So, those, maybe required, is some intent, perhaps effort, perhaps not effort, but yeah. So these three things of really the two in bold are going to be the ones you use more with hacerse and convertirse. Maybe a little more in those situations. We're going to
I have a question.
see.
Well, if it's like, you said that it takes some time and it takes time to get there. So you use the convertirse and but the thing is, like, when I look at this, you give the example of Juan se hizo gerente de este sector. So that means that he's also, like, when somebody is becoming a manager, you are working on it. So you can use convirtió.
You could, yeah, sí. Ujú. Se convirtió en jefe. Sí. You do hear people say se hizo jefe and se convirtió en jefe. You might hear people using either one of those. That's one where hacerse and convertirse might be used interchangeably.
Right.
And it's okay. And if you use those two terms interchangeably with boss, manager, the step up to the next level on the job, common.
Okay.
Common. And somebody won't bat an eye if you substitute se hizo jefe or se convirtió en jefe. Sure, they absolutely know what you mean, and they won't think that's weird that you used a different verb. Won't think that's weird. I'm going to show you yet a different thing that implies something a little different. And I hope I can show you why. Okay. And we won't necessarily use it. Well, we might. Okay. And please know that, in the mind of a native speaker, even with them, it's a very nuanced thing. If you ask them to explain it, they'll give you a very nuanced thing where you as an English speaker will say, yeah, but what about this? And they'll say, well, but this is just the way we use it. They're going to give you a very unsatisfactory, and sometimes, even explanations that I have found kind of contradict one another. So, okay, let's take a look at yet one different thing. And this is a different term that also means become or became. Llegar a ser, but it has to be that combination. Llegar a ser, 3 words. Llegar a ser. And what does that literally mean? That llegar means to arrive, right?
Yeah.
That means to arrive. Whoops. There are not 3 R's in arrive. Ser, to be. Arrive to be. Wow. Arrive to be. Yes. Now, when you know in your mind that literally that means arrive to be, you can come to the conclusion that this kind of became, it means that something you became something and that it required a lot of effort. This will always be used with a noun. Llegar a ser will always have a noun. So let's plug that in to make it a little bit easier. Llegó a ser con noun, sustantivo. It means somebody became something and that it required a lot of effort to get to that point. And when somebody uses llegar a ser, they are automatically signaling by choosing that chunk of words, ooh, this required not only time, but work, effort, sacrifice, possibly. Okay, so let's take a look at when that might be appropriate. Mi sobrino llegó, perdón. I had to boot out of my keyboard there. Llegó a ser abogado Después de 3 años en la universidad, my nephew became a lawyer after 3 years at university. Wow. Not only did it take time, but he had to study his butt off. He had to take out student loans. He had to, you get the idea. There is a sacrifice with money for tuition. There is a sacrifice of time for study. There's a sacrifice of interning with somebody to get to this point. Llegar a ser, it plus a noun, is always going to talk about arriving at something. And this is some kind of a pinnacle. This is a real, you've hit a goal, a major goal that required time and effort and maybe money and a lot of work to get to that point. Otro ejemplo sería, and these are almost always going to be involved with jobs of some kind, or attaining a certain status. Okay, sí. Por ejemplo, aquí, sí. Este
You say
hombre,
she became a mother after, well, so and so.
well,
Can you use llegó a ser as well?
for mother,
Yeah, I mean, like, somebody become a mother or somebody
No.
become a father
No.
after whatever years.
no, not
No?
llegar a ser, no.
Oh,
I'll show you how. Let's look at where this llegó a ser does work. Este hombre
oh, shoot, yes, okay.
llegó a ser presidente
Okay.
en la elección de 2020, por ejemplo. Okay. Llegó a ser presidente. Presidente is seen as being this pinnacle, this super high status that somebody would have gone campaigning and fundraising and working at lower levels for many years till they got to this other big level of this very high status position. Okay. And so the level of work you've got to do to get to presidente is significant. The level of work you've got to get to abogado is significant. I'm going to even say, if any kind of technology work where you've got to really understand how a piece of machinery or chemical processes or scientific knowledge is involved, it requires a lot of work. In all of those things, llegar a ser is an even more appropriate thing than the other two verbs. Let's take a look at your idea, Juanita, which is a great one, of madre.
Okay.
This is something we talk about a lot. Oh, he became a father. She became a mom. In those two cases, either hacerse or convertirse would be very natural choices, interchangeable.
Okay.
Se hizo padre. He became a dad. And, it's, or convertirse en padre. Juan se convirtió en padre de gemelos. Wow. He became a dad of twins. Yeah, here's a happy event. But it's seen, convertirse and hacerse is seen as more natural processes.
Okay.
And parenthood is kind of viewed as more of a natural process that anybody might experience in
Want
their
to be.
life. Yeah, they might experience in their life as well. Well, that's a normal thing. Became a, do we look at presidente as well? That's a normal thing. No, not so much. Do we think of ingeniero Ingeniero eléctrico and electrical engineer. Do we look at that as, well, anybody might?
Mm,
No, that's something that,
Okay.
wow, somebody's got to want to do it. They got a plan. They got, yeah. Okay.
okay.
Yeah, you see, but you see the difference. Yeah. A normal person, an average Joe Schmo or Jane Doe might become a mom. Yeah, it happens to a lot of people. So, hacerse and convertirse might happen to a number of people, but
Okay.
wow, that llegar a ser, that's like some elbow grease. That's significant work. So,
So it's
we'll
like you
throw-
become a successful businessman is part of that too.
often if you want to imply, wow, llegó a ser, sí.
Like a founder of something, then you can put it in there in this
Yeah,
category.
somebody might use hacerse or convertirse with un negocio exitoso, a successful businessman. They might, but llegó a ser, you're going to subtly, by using that phrase, imply automatically, ooh, this was sacrifice for this person to get there. You know, they've arrived. It's baked into the llegar a ser. So, okay. Uy, por ejemplo, sí, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, I'm pretty sure didn't become, a multimillionaire overnight. So
Right.
Warren Buffett llegó a ser un negocio exitoso, sí, después de muchos años. Yeah. Warren Buffett was not known when he got out of college by everybody in the country. Yeah. This is multiple steps up the ladder of success for many, many years in a row. So Warren Buffett llegó a ser un negocio exitoso. He became a successful businessman. Llegó a ser is super appropriate because of the
Okay.
high level he's at. Yeah. So if somebody gets to a level, in English, we've got one of those colloquial phrases of, oh, he's arrived, meaning he's like, arrived is part of llegar a ser. It's the llegar part. So there's a nuanced feel to llegar a ser. You could say Warren Buffett se hizo un negocio exitoso. And you know what? It's not like somebody would say, oh, you shouldn't
Worldview.
say hizo. You shouldn't use se hizo, or you shouldn't say se convirtió.
Mm.
No, you could use that too to talk about Warren Buffett, and that would be okay. But llegó a ser kind of revs it up to a higher level. It's got a slightly different nuance feel to it. Okay. So in other words, is it wrong to use these to talk about Warren Buffett? No. But do you give a special twist of super pinnacle and effort with llegó a ser? Yes.
Mm.
Okay. Vale. Okay. And yet there are more. But we won't go there yet. We're going to just take a look at some of these. Let's look at, let's look at some of these. Let's look at these older ones. I'm going to, wow. Here's what I'm going to do instead. Let's look at some of these older ones. because we've already talked about these. So you're already familiar with them. Ay, ¿qué pasó? Okay, I'm trying to get one to hide the other. Vamos, like, come on. This is supposed to work. Bring to front. There we go. Aquí. Vale. Okay. If we talk about these guys from this movie, obviously they become something we can tell from their outfits right away. Right? So let's see if we can convert this story and just talk about the became part. Yeah. These men became astronauts.
Los hombres.
Estos hombres.
Estos hombres, okay.
Feels like this would be under the category of llegar a ser.
Yeah, you know what? I would tend to go, llegaron a ser astronautas. I would even go, I would go with that because, man, not just anybody can do that, right?
Mm.
So I'm putting a really super special layer of became. And when you think about the movie and all the time and weeding people out of the process who get booted out of that program, llegar a ser makes the most sense. Estos hombres llegaron a ser astronautas con NASA. Con NASA. Bien? That is what makes the most sense. Could you say, se hicieron astronautas? It's not wrong, but this really starts to tell people how much work was put into that. So it's maybe a little more appropriate. Bien?
Mm.
Okay. Otra idea. We're going to look at some different ideas here. Ay, a ver. I want to cover this up without erasing things. Okay. Let's talk about some of the characters. We've got we have two people who became lovers. Ooh, we got like multiple layers. We've got two people who became lovers. We've got a lady who became a wife of a refugee. We've got a man who became a guy fighting Nazis. Ooh, we've got all kinds of different levels here. Did anybody go to college to do any of that? No.
No.
Yeah. So,
So it's not llegar a ser.
llegar a ser,
It's not.
you could, but probably not the most
No.
appropriate.
No,
Okay.
not appropriate.
So let's talk about the idea of amantes, lovers.
Se hizo.
Muy bien. Se hicieron amantes.
Oh,
Se hicieron amantes. Rick y Elsa, sí, son los nombres de los personajes. Those are the characters, sí. Okay. Vamos a ver entonces. Rick y Elsa se hicieron amantes en París. Hace años, years ago. They just fell into that. Relationship. Okay. Bien. I could say Elsa became the wife. ¿Quién es el otro? ¿Quién es el nombre del esposo? What's her husband's name? Ay, no me acuerdo del nombre de.
Se hizo.
Ay, no me acuerdo. Okay. Laszlo. Laszlo. Es el nombre del esposo.
Ah,
Okay. The man she marries. Yeah. She meets Rick. They fall in love. He doesn't know why he got dumped. Poor guy. Yeah. Why did I get dumped? I'm Humphrey Bogart. I got dumped at the train station. She goes off. She marries somebody. Well, actually, she was married. Oh, but it's a long story. Okay. So Elsa became Laszlo's wife.
Se hizo. Se hizo.
Could be se hizo. This is one of those. Could be either one. Se convirtió.
Convirtió.
It could be se convirtió, but then we need that little N. Se hizo o se convirtió en la esposa de Víctor Laszlo. Es el nombre de, yeah. El refugio de los nazis, the refugee from the Nazis. Sí. Se hizo works, se convirtió also works. Bien. But not se volvió. That
No.
to me would not sound natural.
No.
Bien, okay. ¿Cómo se let's say Rick became ¿qué se
A
hace?
patriot.
A patriot. Gracias. Rick, al fin de la película. Rick,
Se volvió. Se volvió.
well, we could. Se volvió, according to what Ana told us, you could. Se volvió. That was kind of a sudden thing, wasn't it? Yeah. Se volvió, but we could also say se hizo. We could also say se convirtió en
Wow.
patriota
Hmm.
contra los nazis. Sí. There really anything in that range is very believable, very workable. Nobody's going to bat an eye and say, why did you choose that weird verb? And everybody will know what you meant. So what's your goal? So that somebody knows what you meant. Will they understand that? Sí. Se volvió, se hizo, se convirtió. These in many parts of Latin America or Spain would sound a little more natural than se volvió, although it is kind of a sudden switch at the end of the movie. So yeah, se volvió really isn't totally out of bounds there because, you suddenly find out, wow, he's switching sides. Okay. Bien. We could also say, after breaking up with Elsa, he became a cynic.
Mm,
He became bitter. I got dumped. Después de romperse, después de separarse de Elsa, Rick. Now, was that kind of a sudden change that I just got dumped, damn it? Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that is.
You know what? Se volvió works
Volvió.
really well with that. Se volvió muy amargo. Muy cínico. He became very bitter, very cynical when he got dumped. I'm looking out for number one. I got dumped. This is a, se volvió is also often a visceral reaction. Se volvió tells somebody, Oh, he changed after that. That was it. That was the turning point. Se volvió indicates a drastic turning point quite often. Ah, bien. Okay. A ver. Bien, bien. Okay. Makes some sense?
See.
See?
Okay.
So you
Yeah.
could come, se volvió could be used to become angry. Something that just happens and you become.
Se volvió muy, muy enojado. Sí.
Okay.
Se puede, sí. Yeah. Hacerse. But notice angry is a description, right? And when we started that, we were saying somebody becomes something. Yeah. Okay. So, volverse is not always uniformly used with becoming something. It's, I think, more frequent with becoming a certain way. A description kind of thing. Yeah, became is a tricky thing. So, okay. Bien, vamos. A ver. Here are some examples. Aquí tenemos Aquí tenemos ejemplos aquí. Si hablamos de animales, if we talk about animals, yeah. This is one of those situations when we talk about animals, and this is a physical change, and it happens very naturally. And it happens step by step, and it is a stage change. Convertirse is what you're going to hear within. In situations like this. This is going to be probably the natural verb of choice. See? La oruga se convirtió en mariposa, en otro insecto, into another kind of insect. See? El bebé aquí, el bebé panda se convirtió en adulto, se convirtió en un oso adulto que se llama un oso panda, a panda bear.
Mhm.
Bien. El pájaro muy pequeño, el bebé, o los bebés se convirtió en águilas. Se convirtieron en águilas. They became eagles. ¿Sí? Se convirtieron en un pájaro enorme,
Mhm.
muy poderoso, powerful. Okay. It's a very big change from being a little cheeping thing, into something that picks up little animals and kills them and eats them. That's a big change. ¿Sí? O aquí si hablamos de algo que el animalito que se convirtió en una rana o en un sapo. I don't really know if this is a toad or a frog, but, I always get them mixed up with those differences. But, you have a multiple stage process. So these kind of animal things help us understand that convertirse really works great in this kind of situation where you have, a multiple step thing, but it's a natural kind of process. Okay. Si hablamos de Abraham Lincoln, this is a different kind of change. Somebody became something else. Yeah. And if we talk about Lincoln and his life and what he became many things over his life, right?
Llegar a ser.
Llegó a ser presidente,
Llegar a
el
ser.
presidente.
Llegó a ser, llegó a ser presidente. That would be the pinnacle, right? And that would indicate, wow, all right, he really worked at that for years. That was a process over many years and time and effort and people donating and, all kinds of stuff. But I might also say he became a lawyer.
Llegó a ser. Llegó a ser.
We could say
Un
llegó
abogado.
a ser abogado. We might also term that as se hizo. And the way you should se hizo abogado, he made a lawyer out of himself reflexively. That also would work. Yeah. Se hizo, in those days, people did not always go to a university to get a lawyer's degree. They studied and they apprenticed, but so really either one of those works.
Can be se convirtió too, no?
We could say se convirtió. Oh, we could even say se convirtió en una leyenda. He turned into virtually a legend. Yeah, that just kind of happened over time from our point of view, now in the future, right? Yeah, but we can use any of those ideas to talk about Lincoln. Ooh, let's think about this. Ooh, es una película de animales, una película de niños. This is a kids movie, ¿verdad? Es una película de niños muy popular con niños. El Rey León y el protagonista es Simba. The character is Simba. El protagonista, the central character, es Simba. Okay. He became the leader of the lions. He became the Lion King.
Oh,
But he didn't really work at it. He just kind of grew into it. So that
Oh, he
means
just kind of
say
grew into it.
Convirtió.
Se
Convirtió.
convirtió. And we're looking at these because you know what? Pronouncing that is a little bit of a tongue twister. Convirtió. Se convirtió en el Rey León. He became the Lion King. Would it be wrong to say se hizo? No. Se hizo el Rey León. It's kind of interchangeable there because it's a movie, okay. Porque es película, no es una historia de verdad. Se convirtió en el Rey León. That really is an excellent choice. That probably would be my top choice there. But you could say se hizo el Rey León. Sí, es posible también. Sí. I would not use se volvió. I would not use se volvió in that circumstance. I would use one of these two. And I wouldn't use llegó a ser. Llegó a ser, and tienes razón, you are correct. This is something that he just he grew into this role. Yeah. So really, llegar a ser would be okay, but it's kind of a step too far. It's a little over the top. It's a little over the top in that situation. Okay. A ver. Si hablamos de esta película, Lord of the Rings. Sí. El Señor de los Anillos. Creo que el título aquí, el título que se usa es El Señor, El Señor de los Anillos. The Lord of the Rings. The word for Lord in this case is used as Señor. When people religiously talk about God as Lord, they use that word Señor. Ah, Señor. You know, little old abuelita kneels down to say a prayer. And she's, ay, dear Lord, querido Señor. And she's not saying dear Mister. She means dear Lord. Señor can mean Lord in that sense. El Señor de los Anillos. Ooh, there are all kinds of different characters who could talk about in that movie and people who became different things. El protagonista. Hay muchos protagonistas. El protagonista Frodo, es un Aragorn. Aragorn, sí. Bien, ok, vale. Entonces, ¿qué podemos decir? What can we say about these people or anybody else? A mí no me importa. I don't really care which one.
No, no sé.
No lo sé.
No lo sé.
Okay, let's say Frodo es un enanito. He's kind of like a dwarf type character. I know dwarfs are actually called a different character in this movie, but he's a short guy. Yeah, sí, es muy bajo. Es muy bajo. No es un héroe de músculos muy grandes, Frodo. No. Es como un adolescente. He's like some adolescent kind of tripping on himself kind of guy. See? He is not some big, strapping, muscular
Thor.
warrior. No.
Not a Thor.
Frodo no es guerrero. He is not a warrior. ¿Sí? Entonces, pero, what if we want to say, Frodo becomes, he becomes a hero.
Mm.
This little short nothing guy who's not a soldier becomes a hero. He became a hero.
Se convirtió un héroe.
Se convirtió en héroe. Sí, se convirtió en héroe. We could interchangeably, it's perfectly okay. Se hizo
No.
héroe al fin de la película. Eso es, sí. Se hizo héroe. Se convirtió en héroe. Maybe llegó a ser, if you're a real fan of the books, because he goes through multiple, this is the kind of movie with people who are rabid fans of the movie. The character really goes through trials and tribulations. And if you know that, and you want to really give it that feel, you could even say Frodo llegó a ser el héroe. El hombre bajo, el hombre muy débil, the little weak guy, llegó a ser un héroe. Absolutamente.
And you must use N with convertir.
And
You have to add
that's
N
one of
always.
those little oddball preposition things.
Always
Yeah.
add on when you use that
Creo
verb.
que sí. I think so. Sí, creo que sí.
Okay.
Sí, creo que sí. Bien. Okay. So, you get kind of a feel for how this rolls. We'll take a look at some other became words next week. I'm going to assign you some. I'm going to search for the right video because there are multiple videos and I want to make sure I pick one that is really does not blow your circuits in your brains, because some of them do. But once they show you examples, it kind of helps for you to see. And it helps for you to see too where things might be interchangeable, really, truly interchangeable, one way or another. Bien, and I'll give you an extra Frida Kahlo episode for fun. It has nothing to do with llegar a ser. But we'll talk about Frida next week and see what we can. We'll talk
Muy
about
triste, muy triste.
muy triste. Y el video siguiente habla un poquito más de las obras, the works, las obras de Frida. Habla más de, por ejemplo, también el lugar muy famoso, su Casa Azul, her blue house. It's going to talk about the blue house thing. And everybody in Hispanic culture, you say here, Casa Azul. I mean, even if somebody names a hotel Casa Azul, they are harking back to that as everybody knows what Casa Azul means in this culture. So it has a very far-reaching reputation, that term Casa Azul, because of Frida, not because of Casa Azul, just a color, but because it has cultural significance for the place where she was known to live, kind of like White House. In American culture, it has a connotation, Casa Azul. In Mexican culture, it has a connotation. Bien, okay, vale?
Sí.
Bien. I'm going to leave to hope that Felipe can come to work on some demolition. I can make sure that Felipe is not going to demolish the existing air conditioning unit along with the wall.
Oh, you're replacing your AC.
Yeah. If we demolish the AC unit, it's not 100 degrees. So
Right.
his hard drives will not fail.
Sí.
But we would really like not to destroy the AC unit in the process of. I'm really nervous about it. Me siento muy, muy, muy nerviosa, pero es así. Okay. Y gracias a todos. Thanks everybody for understanding me cutting this a little bit short so that
Gracias.
Gracias.
Yeah,
No
sí.
problema.
Okay.
Gracias.
Bueno, hasta luego.
Bueno,
Hasta luego.
Gracias.